crash down into attract repel. Well, just thematically here, in terms of composition, the comp that we see from KT Rolster is a lot more meta. It's a lot more figured out. It's safe. You know your win conditions. You're playing around Drake control early. You're playing around level 6 for Samira, Immortal Shield Bow, and then getting a lead early enough to where Gangplank scaling carries your late game. So, you know, it's very cut and dry what KT Rolster are trying to do. They've been very weak at pulling off these compositions in the last few matches, but I think this time, with the, you know, weird comp they're up against, as long as they play this pretty standard, I give them the edge here.
Yeah, this is going to be pretty interesting. I want to see how this early game goes with this weird comp on the side of Afrika, as you mentioned. An actual Enchanter support that's not Seraphine. Sign me up. I'm down. We got Pantheon in the mid lane, too.
Put a red nose on. Lots of colors, okay? And clown sounds.
Well, we're going to have to get to your clown story a little bit later because we have this force on the Drake, and this is what you get. You actually do get a lot of global presence because you have the Grand Skyfall, you have the Karthus, and now with this fight started up, Doran actually getting extremely low, trying to flash in there, and he will flash away from the execute from the Pantheon, but we kind of got this fight in two different corners now. Keen getting very low, but he's still going to be able to push in and take that first blood. Given over to Fly. Talk about this bottom lane as well. I mean, we haven't talked about it too much just because of Karthus, but I'm going to hold that thought as we do have this engage coming in. The Wild Growth are trying to get on top of Lehens, but they can't even do it. And here comes that extension, but is the damage enough? No, it is absolutely not. As finally the Featherstorm does come out, but it is just not enough. Hybrid able to heal up through all of that. Point in time, up a level, up more than 30 CS. As Hybrid just kind of walks into it here. Not expecting them to round the bend. He didn't have any vision on the lane. We don't have the same jungle catch-up mechanics either, so it's a different state of the game, and I like Karthus even more because of that.
Look at Fly.
Wall is not great. Fly is coming in here very aggressively. The Wild Growth does come in as he flashes away, and now Dread is getting into the thick of things as you do, but the follow-up is just not going to be there. He will be ulting, and really all this is for is to create space and try to zone them away, and he will do exactly that.
There's just no way they can commit in after all the damage that he had, the burst that comes through there.
Well, we have this Ocean Drake spawning, and again, every Drake matters, right? And you can see that KT are going to be looking to fight for this one. They're not backing down. Keen, they have that full-on engage, and even through the Wild Growth, he will go down. Here comes Fly. It feels like a little bit too little, too late, and already their tank goes down, trying to burst down Doran. That wasn't the play. And this time around, KT, they find the pick with the Syndra, and they get this fight going on their terms, and they will take down the Drake.
I mean, everything I just said, you know, it feels like KT are trying to erase it off the chalkboard, but at the same time, this is a positional error, right? They don't know where KT are, but when they offer you up a kill on a silver platter, and then Afrika still decide to hard engage despite it, and Fly is out there on his own as well. He dies. Like, this is the potential of KT. Burst. Solo kills like this. Getting one kill, one by one, like, into this. You have to group, and trying to fight this is really greedy, too.
They're just going for it. I mean, Fly is just basically going to die immediately, and there's the Wombo combo in the backline. Keen trying to create room for Bang, but everybody's dead already, so in comes the Talia.
That's probably
picks up the ace. And all of a sudden, this game is immediately turned on its head. KT take two very decisive team fights. You come through us for the Ocean Soul, or you go for the Baron, and we get a 5v5.
That's exactly what they're looking for.
Okay, what's going on up here? Keen all alone on the top side. The Wild Growth is used, but Lehens is solo anyway, and Keen is just going to have to run away. And there goes your front line. Immediately just goes down by themselves. We do have the ultimate coming out here. Hybrid, you're not able to block that, but it does not matter. As Keen now trying to make it work by himself, finds one with the help of Bang. Bang, incredibly important in these late game fights, by the way, because once the Karthus dies, you're really the majority of the damage. You have to do the cleanup.
Exactly, KT can take this Baron. They have enough damage, and they can just barely tank it with Doran here. And Zeus at the front. Bang's going to try to trade back to Drake, and they will get it. But it's not soul point for them. So we see actually a teleport coming through. I don't think they'll get collapsed on, but Doran says otherwise. He is rushing in.
Fast. he can kind of just run at you. They don't even know he's here. Keen just gets burst down immediately.
They had no vision.
See you later. Yeah, you have to be looking for cleanup. If you are the Xayah, if you're not getting damage done, you're not doing anything. They find Bonnie for free in the base. And that's pretty big. That could potentially stop this push on the bottom side.
He wants a
you
big
see
ult.
that here comes the Grand Skyfall. Looking to peel here. Keen with that Mega Gnar. He needs it, but it's just a bit too late as he's not able to get it popped. And the Cannon Barrage even going to come down here, but maybe a little bit too optimistic.
Well, when
the sun also will sail.
Keen is not done yet. He's got Dead Man's Plate. Oh, they're going to cut him off. That was so well played by Zeus.
Well. Okay, now we have the Wild Growth on the front line. They found Dove, but really the problem is Doran. Do they have the damage to take out this Gangplank that is literally chunking your guys one by one? A really huge Karthus ultimate, but it's not going to matter because only Dread is alive
Zeus
now.
leaps on him, and they take him out. Dread is just the last man standing here. This is going to be the game.
Oh, Hybrid solo. But looks like he did have GA at the end of the day. Zeus takes a lot of damage. Do we have any respawns? Looks like the answer is no. And so KT will be able to push in, takes down this Nexus, and they will secure game number 1. GP that, you know, you can say goodbye to your scaling. The GP in the end of the day is going to do the most damage, as we saw here.
Yeah, I mean, the scaling is good for both teams, too. It's just that KT's comp didn't have a front line, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you can kill the front line in less than a second whenever they try to ult in, whenever they try to set up for a fight. And Keen, the poor guy, he didn't make any positional mistakes this game. He was not the one getting caught, but he just wasn't able to play the game at a certain point because he was just getting burst down. He wasn't able to set up for stuns. He wasn't able to set up for those engages because the damage output from the Syndra and the Gangplank was so high that he just...
Welcome back, everybody, for the second match of the night, and we're having a very intense games to secure their spot in the middle of the pack. And KT Roaster just fell to the 7th place after the game match number 1 today. So we are having another match, looking for some higher spot in the standings in the LCK. What are your thoughts on the Africa's comp for game 1? As they banned out Udyr, Olaf, and Thresh, it was like, okay, we're gonna let you play Talia and we're gonna play Karthus bot. And then Lulu was also a flex pick for different roles, but we can see that KT had a very solid comp. But after Africa completed their comp, I don't know, it's a bit dicey, you know? I can see their intention, but still I don't get it. I totally agree. Current jungle meta is about farming and then going for some gank when he has some downtime. So Lulu is the champion who can have a strong lane unless the opponent jungler doesn't gank. But there are a lot of games where Africa actually had been falling behind during the laning phase, so I guess Lulu was the champion in order to kind of tidy up their power in the laning phase. But okay, I totally agree with the Seraphim pick, but I'm not really sure whether it's the right time for Lulu to come online in this meta. KT, even though they had some hard early game, they were able to come back as the time went by. So let's take a look at this first highlight. So let's take a look at this bottom lane skirmish. Lulu actually used her flash in the Herald fight earlier. So Lulu was looking for some trade as they thought Hybrid was isolated. But because she used her critical skill onto Samira for this team fight, there was no way for Africa bot duo to turn this fight around. This is not the same Lulu that we saw in the prior metas. Lians is a player that maxed his W skill. So it has a massive power if you can get the polymorph on the opponents and also if you can put the exhaust together. But at that point, well, Lians was using the W skill on himself during the combat. I think he made a misclick. I thought he was trying to give some boost over to Samira, or maybe he was trying to kind of polymorph the Samira, but I guess that was a mistake coming out from Lihans. And let's take a look at the next replay where Africa actually caught off guard. They were actually falling apart here on the mid lane. The Karthus actually saw Talia and Syndra near the blue camp, so he used the Wall of Pain to scout where Syndra was. But he kind of lost track of Syndra, so he once again used his Wall of Pain to check where Syndra is, but then Lulu gets caught on the right-hand side of the map. So Talia goes really aggressively for that Lulu kill, so Karthus was trying to cover for this Lulu, isolated from his teammates, so Karthus suddenly lost track of that Syndra in the jungle, and then after they got the kill onto Dread, KT Roaster immediately turned to this Baron. Rel is so OP for sure. At the same time, I don't really know if Lulu is that viable in the current meta. If you're gonna use Lulu like that, they needed a stronger front line in order to open more space for Xayah to do damage. Xayah was definitely in a rough spot to put damage during teamfights due to their comp. So KT Roaster managed to take game number 1. Let's check out the player of the game. Right now, it's gonna be Dove on Syndra. Syndra was the one that got everything done. The Scatter the Wick was the beginning of KT's comeback. And Gorilla is super proud of his former teammate Dove popping off here in the KT Roaster. At that point of the game, KT was actually behind, but Dove kept making plays with that Scatter the Wick combo, and every kill actually was connected to a critical objective control. And there was this team fight where Gnar got overextended, and then Dove actually landed the stun. And I think that was the point where KT Roaster got the ball rolling. This is the first match for Dove to play as a starter in KT Roaster. It's really impressive to see him popping up like this. The KT Roaster and Africa Fricks, they are both competing for the play-up spot, so every match really matters a lot. So let's take a look at game number 2 between KT and Africa.